is ready. Oh my goodness. And I'm so pleased to welcome Thais Lopez Vogel, co-founder and trustee for the Volo Foundation, who is moderating this innovation showcase and also one of our amazing sponsors. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello. Oh, you can hear me. I didn't know if this was working. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to make it brief, and after this is lunch. But these amazing women that are coming up right now, you guys can come. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Thais Lopez Vogel. I'm the founder of Volo Foundation, a small family foundation here in Jupiter. We believe in data. Our conviction is that every community should have data-driven tools in order to bring a resilient future. But we cannot do this alone. We need funders, we need educators, we need entrepreneurs, we need community leaders, political leaders. And all these women here, we represent each and every one of those pieces of the puzzle. We know how to get the capital invested in environmental solutions that are inspired by nature and the community we serve. So without further note, I'm gonna let these amazing women present yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do. I think Jessica comes first, but she needs to, she's very important. We are all very important. She needs the podium.
Thanks, guys. I'm looking, is this a remote, and which way do we go forward? Okay. Oh, the big green arrow? Perfect, okay. All right, now that I have that taken care of. So thanks for the intro. So I specialize in stormwater and best management practices to help not only with water quantity, but also water quality. To me, stormwater is one of the keys to resilience, not only for flood mitigation, but also clean and healthy waterways. This requires thinking in different, innovative ways. And I know everyone here is not directly in stormwater, so I'd be really remiss to not mention one of our biggest drivers in water quality right now in Florida. The new stormwater rule treatment standards go into full effect on the 28th, so less than 2 weeks away. And really what this means is that all new development must meet nutrient reduction values seen above. The most stringent being the category of impaired plus outstanding Florida waters, which is a 95% reduction in both total phosphorus and total nitrogen. And a note here, Biscayne Bay is included in that category. So again, we need to find those best management practices that can accomplish both the goals of water quantity and water quality. Weathers looks like putting in a high-flow rain garden to underground storage below, along a driveway, or even in a parking garage. Or using a public amenity, such as a playground, with underground stormwater storage below. The same concept can be used underneath the baseball fields or other fields of play. We also have this concept in Maurice Gibb Park, Miami Beach, as well as this fantastic living shoreline. I don't have a picture of the green space. However, if you guys go visit the park, which I highly recommend you do, and you stand in that green space, just know that you're standing on many, many cubic feet of stormwater storage. Other ways that we can retrofit can be seen in this example in Cocoa Beach. While wanting to expand parking for one of the only boat ramps in town, the city also decided to take advantage and retrofit this area with stormwater improvements. The site is right on the Banana River Lagoon, which is part of the Indian River Lagoon system and an impaired water body. The project is incorporating a side bank filter with Bold and Gold media, BMATs, floating wetlands, and also a littoral shelf. Altogether, bringing the nutrient reduction to 87% total nitrogen and 98% total phosphorus. I also want to note that there is an extremely high water table here. So I just want to demonstrate that these BMPs were chosen with that in mind. Moving down to South Florida, we go to Cairo Lane in Opa-locka. The industrialized area has been contributing to major water quality issues. The goal of this project are to reduce sediment, heavy metals, and hydrocarbon discharge to that canal. Specialized baskets will be installed to the new catch basins to capture sediment and other trash. And since heavy metals actually bind to sediment, this will help with two goals at once. Prior to stormwater discharging into the canal, there are going to be 2 vaults with 40 specialized filters each that will be installed. These cartridges are going to treat the water for hydrocarbons. Moving back up a little north a bit to Conbear Cove, this was a site that was done with what we call a treatment train. So we're looking at open joint pavers, there's going to be underground storage, there is a submerged bioactivated media wall for nutrient reduction, as well as a vegetated biofiltration area prior to discharge to the canals. So you can see a nice before picture there, and one of the stub ends there, and also the after picture. So not only are we treating quantity of stormwater, quality of stormwater, but we're also increasing the aesthetic value of that neighborhood. And again, extremely high water table. We're talking about dealing with maybe 2 feet at most that we have, probably less. And since what we do is often so close to the water, we also want to offer protection within the water. These are reef arches. Each module is 4 feet by 6 feet by 2.5 feet tall and weighs 1,200 pounds. They function well as a breakwater reef, as well as a tool for accretion and erosion control. As you can see from the photos above, accretion can happen in a short period of time. Looking at this overview, what you'll notice is that this accretion lasts for a long period of time, so we can see the difference there in that year. Not only did the arches show oyster recruitment, but also an increase in benthic in fauna community, as well as an increase in fish, leading to more birds and dolphin activity in that area. To give you one more example, we'll go to Cape Canaveral and the Banana River Lagoon. The city was having severe erosion control issues in the shoreline with one of their treatment tanks for their water reclamation facility. To give perspective, if this tank failed, it would mean that the city would have no water. They couldn't use water, they couldn't get water, there was no septic until that was repaired. They combated this by using geofabric, fill, and a 60-foot linear revetment. However, they wanted additional protection. They installed 10 arches with the goal of accretion behind the arches and primary protection from the large fetch. Important to note, permitting was extremely fast because of an exemption, and the installation took less than 1 day. Once there's enough accretion, they're planning to plant mangroves within the space between the rock and the arches themselves. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions after the session.
Thank you, Jessica. Yoka, a friend of mine, she's going to introduce herself, but she's special at the Clio Institute.
Thank you, Thais. Is everybody awake? Okay, good. Let's see if I can figure this out. All right. Well, I have been charged to present to you and talk to you about probably the most important part of resilience building and infrastructure hardening, which is taking care of our people, protecting our people, because we know that resilience without an educating public could fail. And so want to talk about it not from an infrastructure perspective, but talking from a human-centered perspective, understanding that building resilience, we have to really focus on our communities and making sure that for solutions to succeed, we have to center education. And it is the root of resilience, and that will make it stick and last. And so before I go deep, let me just ground us on and explain for those of you who may know who the Clio Institute is and what we do. My name is Yoka Arditi Rocha. I am the CEO of the Clio Institute, and the Clio Institute stands for Climate Leadership Engagement Opportunities. And at the core of everything we do is making sure that we build climate literacy and climate action. So agency is at the core of everything we do. And we build the people side of resilience, the human infrastructure. We mobilize people, we advance clean energy, we train leaders, and we build community resilience. And so we complement regional planning by ensuring public understanding and trust. And so we have been partners with a compact for 16 years. That's how long Clio has been in really making sure that we all work together with a people-centered approach. And so I love to just show some of our metrics and tell you that this work is really rooted in a simple idea. That climate action and climate resilience requires informed, empower people. And some of our programs are really rooted into, with a bottom-up and top-down approach. So working at a grassroots community level, but also working with elected officials, cities, and the decision makers to make sure that we have the right policies in place. And we address adaptation and mitigation together with equal intensity, because we truly understand that for building community resilience and adapted capacity, it requires informed and engaged and prepared communities. So to really go into what that looks like, I wanted just to let you know who are our key demographic groups and who do we really center our programs in. And we invest in women, we invest in youth, we invest in frontline communities, the communities that are facing the brunt of the impacts of the climate crisis in a very disproportionate way. And that engagement, that empowerment, rooted in the CLIO's acronym name, that E, is really what prepares participants to become trusted messengers, and that impact multiplies. And this is why education directly strengthens preparedness and why it matters. And so how does that look like on the ground? Basically is in different ways. We have an Empowering Resilient Women program. We have community training programs. We have been lucky to partner with many of the counties represented here in building community resilience with that people human-centered approach. And we are ensuring that we are addressing this in a multi-pronged way. We just recently partnered, finalizing a program with Miami-Dade County that has helped us together with the emergency department, the Department of Emergency Management, in a multilingual campaign. And here are some of the guides that we prepare for the participant to build climate resiliency with our Train the Trainer model, and education programs that prepare leaders within the community to become the ambassadors with the same within the same community, because we know community engagement moves at the speed of trust, and when people understand, they show up. And so I want to just close, leaving us with a few thoughts and then dive into the conversation that we need to build the human systems that allow resiliency and regional strategies to strengthen, and this is where we can help with that, because we will never achieve truly resilience if we don't take care of the people first, especially the most vulnerable. So thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Anya, come on up. Anya was in the first episode of The Visioneers. That's a production on CBS, Saturday mornings, 10:30 a.m. Watch it. Very scientific solutions for our environmental problem.
Hello, everybody. Last I was here was a Tony Robbins event, actually. So I feel like I need to give an intervention, but I won't. I am Anya Freeman. I am the CEO, founder of Kind Designs. I am originally from Ukraine. I grew up in Israel, and I got the opportunity to come to your beautiful country when I was already a teenager. Eventually, I went to law school, and that's how I ended up in Miami, where Kind Designs is based today. I graduated, I had a great career as a lawyer, I was enjoying myself, but then I started to notice that my town, Miami Beach, had a big problem with flooding. And the narrative around it was always basically, goodbye, there's nothing we can do, we're all gonna be underwater by 2060, you have to be crazy to invest in coastal cities in Florida. And that didn't make sense to me. And so I put together a team, including the brilliant Maddie over here that many of you know. And together we started looking into seawalls, which have always been the first line of defense to flooding. This is the first seawall ever installed in the US in 1905 in Texas. And this seawall has not seen much innovation since. It's very expensive and it destroys marine habitats. In fact, installing seawalls in the US alone will destroy 50,000 miles of marine habitats by 2040. And so we thought, how do we come up with a solution that's more affordable? And what if instead of destroying marine habitats, the seawall was a marine habitat? How do we converge artificial reef science and infrastructure? And that's how we came up with this idea of 3D printing living seawalls. So today, primarily seawalls are made precast methods. It takes a day to make a small 6 panels to 12 panels and a month for them to cure before they can be moved and installed. What we do looks a little different. We have the world's oh no, there's no video. Oh, yeah. That's the best part, but you can imagine. Oh, it is, here it is. So we have the world's fastest concrete 3D printer. We print the same size panel in 1 hour, and it cures 5,000 PSI in just 3 days. And because of our proprietary material and the extremely high resolution of the printer, we're able to incorporate a biomimicry design that lets the seawall function like a reef, dissipate 45% wave energy, improve the quality of water at no additional cost. The living seawall is actually cheaper than a traditional concrete toxic slab, which is why in our first year of production, which was just last year, we already installed the world's first 3D printed seawall in Miami Beach, and we haven't stopped printing since. Today alone, we have 3 installations going on, including 1,200 linear feet for Miami shores. This is what the wall looks like after just 3 months. It's covered in grazing algae and tube worms. 6 months and 9, which is pretty amazing because one oyster alone filters 50. There was a video with many more oysters, but one oyster alone, yes, filters 50 gallons of water a day. So this residential project is filtering 50,000 gallons of water in a day. The living seawalls are structurally identical to precast slabs, which is why they're very easy to permit. In fact, in counties like Miami-Dade, you don't even need a permit modification. If you already have a permit for a concrete seawall, you can use the living seawall and do an as-built. And they're identical to install. Any local marine contractor can do it, and at this point, we've worked with all the major marine contractors in South Florida. So we started with seawalls, but then we were approached by communities who already had a seawall, or maybe they needed a steel seawall, like a port, but they wanted to make it into a living seawall. And that's how we came up with our new product line, which is seawall tiles that are non-structural, and they're attached to existing walls. These are for flat walls, like vinyl, concrete. These are for corrugated steel. This is a project we finished recently, City of Longboat Key, and this is what it looks like in literally 30 days. And finally, our last product is 3D printed reefs. And what makes them really special is that they are 23 times more efficient than traditional reefs, like, for example, DERM modules. That means they have 23 times more surface area per cubic yard of concrete. So you can use way less modules to achieve your mitigation, and they have a much smaller footprint. Here's one of ours going in the water in New York City. And the last thing I'll mention is we passed some epic legislation this year. Commissioner Eileen Higgins, for example, Miami-Dade, who is now mayor of Miami, passed legislation making living seawalls exempt from riprap, which is about a $20,000 to $40,000 saving for a 100 linear foot seawall project. And all permitting for seawalls starting in January 1 will be 90 days. And many municipalities follow suit, passing incentives for living seawalls. Like Fort Lauderdale just yesterday passed 100% permit rebate for living seawall projects, which is now going to committee. So as you can see, we're moving at lightning speed. We are completely obsessed because we are on a mission to replace every toxic seawall with a marine habitat, to protect every coastal community in Florida, and to set an example right here in Florida, thanks to many of you in this room, of what's possible in coastal resilience around the world. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Meenakshi, come on in. As you see, we are amazing women doing amazing things. This is beautiful and brilliant.
Thank you. We may all be gathered here from different corners of South Florida, but I want to draw your attention to one 5,000-year-old system that unites us all in more ways than one. That is America's Everglades. That's the laser. Okay, there you go. I caught up with the technology, finally. So yes, America's Everglades unites us in more ways than one. I'm a scientist who studies this ecosystem and urban resilience. My name is Meenakshi Chaba. I work at the Everglades Foundation, a science-based nonprofit that leads advocacy for Everglades restoration. I want to take this opportunity that is not really featured often enough in climate conferences or resilience conferences, and that is how resilience is built by restoration. And you might ask me, what does restoring a wetland have to do with building climate resilience in urban communities? And for that, many of us in this room, as well as 9 million people in South Florida, and as the mayor mentioned, 1 in every 3, Mayor Carver mentioned, and as she always does, 1 in every 3 Floridians depends on the Everglades for their drinking water. Our water comes from the Everglades, and that is reason enough, and it's not an exaggeration to say that South Florida exists because of Everglades. And for the past 25 years, restoration has made it possible and ensured that every time we turn on our faucets, we get high quality, affordable water to drink, to bathe, to run our businesses with. At its very core, resilience begins with water. For thousands of years, abundant fresh waters of the Everglades flowed across the southern peninsula, unimpeded, nourishing habitats, wildlife, estuaries, bays, and so on. But we reduced the Everglades to half its size and alongside reduced the freshwater flows. That led to multiple crises of droughts, fires, carbon emissions, saltwater intrusion, algal blooms, fish and seagrass die-offs. However, in the year 2000, we finally turned a page in history and committed bipartisan support for Everglades restoration. Restoration that builds resilience through water. It does so in 3 ways. 1, it increases the capacity of the Everglades to store water. 2, it cleans that water through nature-based solutions, something that was done years back, and not just a current, term to jazz about. 3rd, it sends that water south, where it belongs. And thanks to a renewed momentum and historic investments in recent years, restoration is beginning to deliver benefits. Just as climate change is a threat multiplier, Everglades restoration is becoming a resilience multiplier. It's a powerful climate action for water security. As volumes of water are sent south, we give ourselves an opportunity to slow down saltwater intrusion into our drinking water supply, as well as our ecosystem. It is a model sustainability action. We enhance our water storage capacity in the Everglades and hence improve our ability to deal with and manage droughts, cut down on the massive freshwater discharges, wasteful discharges into the ocean while reducing water pollution. Restoration rejuvenates the natural risk reduction infrastructure we have in South Florida. That is our mangroves and our marshes that mitigate flooding from rainfall as well as storm surges. And this is not an exhaustive list, but restoration is the foundation for economic resilience. Clean water from the Everglades powers an economy, a modern 21st century economy that's based on travel, recreation, real estate. Just as Mr. Abruzzo was mentioning, all the real estate from where we draw our property taxes, which funds our resilience projects. And hence, we get all that stability and strengthening that we need for future financial shocks, as well as climate-driven hazards. Now, across civilizations and through centuries, communities that endure are ones that have learned how to protect their drinking water supply. Everglades restoration does just that. We are making progress, but we need continued investments to achieve what we set out for, and that is making South Florida's ecosystems and communities resilient. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Karen, take it away. Last but not least.
How's everyone doing? Take another sip of your coffee real fast. I'm going to breeze through these slides so we can get to a conversation. Thank you, Tace, and thank you, Megan Houston, for organizing this, all of the other organizers of this summit. I just want to say, as a representative of the United States Green Building Council, we are so thrilled to be here with you today, speaking myself here, and I'm also joined by Alexis Berry. We're sponsoring, so I just want to thank everyone for contributing this conversation. This is a holistic effort here, so. We're going to start with just a quick background on myself real fast and then get into what the U.S. Green Building Council is most known for. But my background is I joined the U.S. Green Building Council a little over a year ago. I have a background in renewable energy consulting and luxury real estate. So sounds like an oxymoron, but I like to live in the intersection, which is very much an intersection becoming one lane, where renewable energy and sustainability is rooted in resilience, especially here in South Florida, knowing that we live in flood zones, we have insurance, rising costs, and we have hurricane season that comes every year. This is just such an important conversation to be having. So a quick background on my affiliation with U.S. Green Building Council. I sourced a lead project at Tower One in New York City, representing an LED lighting company. This was in the early days, right after Tower One was built. And it was interesting to learn what that building and that site in particular was doing. That was an emergency response imperative that the building was taking in trying to secure that building envelope a little bit better and have operational efficiencies work in tandem with that. So without further ado, we'll go into this, LEED in energy and efficiency design is what the acronym stands for. Many of you know this acronym. I see practitioners, architects, governments, municipalities, all here today that have been very familiar with this guiding framework. This is the most widely used guiding framework. We've been around as an organization for 32 years, 25 years really pushing forward this built environment with the LEED certification. So you'll learn a little bit more of where we are. I want to highlight and thank all of the municipalities and cities in Florida that are taking strong, strides in achieving those climate action plans, revising them, looking at your energy data, trying to understand how you can continue to meet those goals, whether it's 2030 or 2050. But this is one city in Fort Lauderdale that sits in Broward County, Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade County, West Palm Beach, and most recently, Boca Raton, Largo, Gainesville, and Coral Springs certified this year. This is one certification that we have. The U.S. Green Building Council has many. We're known for the LEED certification, but there is a LEED for every project, and you'll see that in a slide coming up here. But the LEED for Cities program looks at a holistic community scale approach and city approach to guide you in becoming more efficient with your water, energy, even exterior environments. The reason I'm highlighting the city of Fort Lauderdale is because of the green spaces, and just because, in all honesty, this was the best photo I could find on our end. But you know, residents, and are there any residents of Fort Lauderdale here today? Just curious. Oh, amazing. Wonderful. And I know that you are led by Jennifer Dorado and many others that have been working across your community to lead these efforts. So thank you. But you all live within a 10-minute walk of a park. I actually moved down here from New York City, and my first stop was in Fort Lauderdale. And being a native of Colorado and being a sailor, I love nature. So I enjoyed that. But this was an essential part of your certification to achieve LEED for Cities, was your focus on your natural environment. Again, there were other requirements that you had to achieve, and I think you achieved this back in 2022. So you've been working to maintain this for quite some time now. But we're going to keep going here. The U.S. Green Building Council is in over 186 countries. This slide probably needs to be updated since January 2024, but we have more than 123,000 square feet of project, 123,000 projects certified worldwide. There's 15 billion square feet roughly certified, 186 countries. Who cares? I don't want to sit up here and brag, but it's important to have a guiding framework. I'll tell you, I know there's students here today from FAU and probably some FIU, some other, I know FIU is represented here, but I was studying sustainable development models in my master's program, and this was back before LEED was really a guiding framework. The U.S. Green Building Council existed, industry feedback was being inputted, but I was submitting research to Steve Smith at Oz Architecture and learning about how Oz Architecture was rebuilding Kigali, Rwanda. They were looking at the U.S. Green Building Council. They were looking at, you know, other extreme forms of straw bale housing and then looking at commercial applications and governmental applications as well. But here we are today, and sitting here in South Florida. We were just able to celebrate this building in Miami earlier this year. LEED has evolved over the years, over the 32 years. We're now in LEED version 5. It's the latest version of LEED. And this building is the first Class A office building to achieve this. This project is worth noting because it started on the interior, the ID&C. There were multiple levels. This was a pilot project. This building you would never know to be an innovative building from the exterior, but operational efficiency and energy efficiency measures have been implemented and are functioning quite well here today. So I want to highlight this building in Miami. Again, a LEED for every project. Here's some other, we were asked to give case studies. We've got the Frost Building in Coral Gables at University of Miami. We certify homes. Miami Beach actually has the most certified homes. People are certifying their homes. We learned from the fires in California. I'm sure some of you saw the Bloomberg article, a CNN article, and some others where there was an architectural duo in Pasadena, California, and LA, and they pimped out their house, certified at LEED Platinum, and they were the only home that withstood the fires on the block. They buried their electrical lines. They did a whole bunch of things. We're going to move forward a little bit further. We have another certification that this kind of relates to this conversation here today about natural systems and nature preservation efforts, but sites and True Zero Waste, I'll get to in a minute, is a way to certify your external environment of your property or your building. Again, it's all about that stormwater mitigation, flood mitigation, and even soil, mitigating soil issues. So here's some projects across the U.S., even in Tempe, Arizona. I'm going to keep going. The site certification can work for, retail, piers, zoos, transit stations, convention centers, campgrounds, cemeteries,
Giving me the stop sign, so.
Okay, one last slide here. Q2 Stadium, we have Hard Rock Stadium as well that's certified, but I want to highlight this stadium because Q2 Stadium is, think about this is like a convention center actually. It's housing quite a few people throughout the year, a variety of entertainment events happening there. They had a very strong push for sustainability and resiliency internally and with external partners and with the city of Austin. So they're the first stadium to achieve sites and true zero waste. It's worth noting. It's not an easy achievement to do, but again, a guiding
We want
framework
to
can
start
help.
this conversation.
All right, we're
Karen,
going to
I'm
stop.
Sorry. And
Anyway, if you'd like to learn
Thank
more
you very
about LEED
much.
V5,
Look, it's funny because the next question is for you and for Anya, because we live in a world of misinformation, perception, misunderstanding, and even myths is what shape how people engage with your work. So let us talk about that and tell us about what is a common myth in your field and how do you help dispel it? Let's start with Anya. Can you share any data stories?
A common myth in the climate tech space is that climate positive products are very expensive. There's always a green premium, and you just have to educate people and convince them that they need to spend more to do something positive for the environment. Common myth that it's very hard to permit anything that's environmentally friendly. It's much harder to produce, and there's this green premium. And the truth is could not be farther from the truth. And with our products, we have proved that we can produce things exponentially faster, like the living seawalls. We can save people, not only match the price of traditional seawalls, but actually make it cheaper for people to use the living seawalls and improve the quality of water for their community. So it's really a no-brainer to use a living seawall versus a traditional toxic seawall. And we proved that not only can we permit it at the same timeline as a traditional seawall, we can actually expedite permitting. And so I just think it takes a team that's very creative, and that's willing to push the boundaries. And when people tell them something is impossible, they actually thrive on that, and they want to prove them wrong. And there's constant innovation, constant research and development. So we're really delivering products that are more affordable for communities, and they are something that they can be really proud of.
I think the same happens with solar. They kept telling us forever that solar was more expensive, and the data says it's not more expensive. So change the mind of something that I have tell you over and over and over takes. Karen, how about you in your experience with the myths in your area?
yeah, there are many myths. I mean, there's still a myth that it's too expensive and too much paperwork to pursue any kind of guiding framework. There have been innovations to that, including LEED V5. There's a resilience pathway. There's a focus on decarbonization, and there's many internal stakeholders that go into achieving LEED or true or sites. The other one is that we have to separate how we build and design with resilience efforts. It's the fact that we have guiding frameworks in building codes across the U.S., not just here in Miami-Dade County, but we have other governments, even Sarasota County, planning to certify their entire portfolio in 2025 LEED Silver of owned buildings. Just shows that there's things that we need to do. Whether and LEED is not for every project. It's really not. But we have to rethink how we design and how we build. And start there. So I guess the dispelling of the myth that it's a separate conversation, it's not. It's one and the same, and that's what we're doing here to address.
Thank you. It is interesting to hear how each field, they all have their myths, but we're mythbusters, like the Ghostbusters here. And that's what we do, changing mindsets, and with facts and evidence and stories like these ones, we can do it. But now I want to get into the critical role of education in resilience. And Meenakshi, Yoka, and Jessica, how are education and outreach involved in each area in your mission? Let's start with Jessica.
So one of the biggest roles of my job is educating designers, educating municipalities, on, again, the different stormwater BMPs that are available out there. And, if we don't have education, we can't find the right solution, right? And that's evident, okay? So if people don't know what tools are out there, they keep using and designing the same old way, and it gets us to where we are now with our water quality issues. So education's critical to everybody involved, realistically. And not only that, going one step further is after you implement these different solutions, what does maintenance look like? What is lifespan? Those are things that need to be planned out for, because if you spend all this funding, all these capital improvement projects, you know, and all the grant funding, et cetera, on these different designs, if you just put it in the ground and you set it and forget it, most of these systems, they require maintenance, and you've just invested in something that's not going to work for the long term, and you've lost your level of service. So I think it's, you know, very critical to have that education, and even going one step further, you guys in municipalities know that we also have to educate the public so they can understand, you know, what are these things going in, because we know the biggest roadblocks is we'll have a great idea and we get it out there and then we have a public meeting because we didn't get the public's input maybe on the front end, and now that project is squashed and we've already invested time and money in that project. So, you know, education all the way around, even to maintenance crews. I'm going to say that as well. I used to be the stormwater utility manager for the city of Cocoa Beach, and this is a very small anecdote, doesn't really have to do with a big capital project, but over the NPDES, you know, the MS4 permit, dog waste, collecting dog waste was one of the parameters that the maintenance crews had to measure. And, you know, they're just kind of griping about it and they don't understand. And then just having a quick conversation, hey, here's why. We actually have to report this because this is keeping nutrients out of the lagoon system. So, you know, from the top all the way down, education is really a key component.
There is no future without environmental education. I heard very smart women say that once. Yoga, actually, that's my motto.
I was just going to say, that was you who said that. That's your motto, and I couldn't agree more. You know, I think from Anya, who is in climate tech, to other consultants, we hear over and over again, and from cities and municipalities, that engaging with the community is essential. It's absolutely critical. It saves people's life. And so, but the myth that I wanted to address is that resilience is about infrastructure and it's about capital, and that somehow when it comes to budgets and we're putting it as line items, education becomes secondary. And I think that is something that we as a community, we need to highlight and prioritize, because it is always the first thing cities and municipalities want to do. But there's normally no budget or not significant budgets to really get at the core of into the communities, making sure that we are removing barriers so the most vulnerable community members can really get access, the tools, the resources, the guidance, the preparedness, because it is really more than building, no offense, you know, seawalls or building, lifting sidewalks and hardening infrastructure. We need to think about our social capital and ensuring that the places and the people that we love are protected. And so I'll leave with this quote that I absolutely love, and the first time I heard it, you know, a few decades ago, really resonated with me, and it's at the core of what we do at the Clio Institute, and it is that people protect what they love. And people love what they understand, and people understand what they're taught. And so, to me, education is absolutely critical in building resilience, and it's at the core of this really incredible summit, which it's really roots of resilience. So, anyway, that's my take.
Thank you. Meenakshi, your thoughts on education?
Thank you. Well said, Yoka. So the Everglades Foundation certainly believes in education. We are a three-pillar organization: science, policy, and education. We invest a lot in our pre-K teachers, pre-K through 12 teachers. We've trained about 5,000 of them across the state in Everglades literacy, and they impact nearly 300,000 students. But above that, we also, all of us have recognized, as you just did, that there are so many competing interests and projects as well in society, and how decision makers are confounded by so many things, competing interests that they have. We could have competing interests within resilience itself. So how do we make it easier for decision makers as well as the public to understand how to prioritize and what to deprioritize and so on? So when we make it easier, and how we do that at the Everglades Foundation is we invest in our science team in economists and social scientists who triangulate what scientific knowledge gives us and translate it into economic outcomes. Things in your daily practice that you understand, that is the currency that we all engage in, and that's dollars. So we have economists who understand and publish on how ecosystem benefits from the Everglades influence us. How does it influence, or rather they influence, our economy? We published a report in this year, which is called Thriving Everglades, Thriving Economy, and we found that the Everglades is $1 trillion asset in our midst. It's a natural capital asset which gives us a flow of services and benefits every year worth $31.5 billion. And if we talk about resilience, every year, the marshes and the mangroves, the natural infrastructure of the Everglades, helps us mitigate flooding that's worth $8.4 billion. And this is the power of understanding and translating science into action. We all know the science, we all know what needs to be done. How do we become an actionable society is the goal at the Everglades Foundation. We need to get the funding, as we all recognize, and we make it easier for people and lawmakers to make those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know these people are getting hungry, so I'm going to have a lightning round, and I'm going to give you 1 minute each, and I will call you, you know me. So in 1 minute, tell me one big challenge or one big opportunity, starting with Karen right there.
I think one big opportunity is educating. So we all do education here within our organizations. You all do as well. It's coming together and building these public-private partnerships within the education space. You know, what I just heard here today, you don't understand what you're not taught. So it's learning best practices and what went right, what went wrong on a project level, on a city level, on a state level, and learning from one another. So I think that's the biggest opportunity here, is to continue to live, to learn from one another and live in that mindset. Because the LEED certification and True Insights is incorporating all of this. Nature Conservancy and others are incorporating. We're all incorporating the same principles, which is wonderful. It's something to celebrate as well. It's also, still a big opportunity in educating the finance sector too. I want to just say this. We just published a report this year on green finance and how you can attract some very innovative tools like C-PACE financing. That's still such a big, wide frontier, but the state of Florida secured the largest C-PACE deal on one of the most troubling projects in Tampa, the Pendry Tampa Hotel. It's not LEED certified, but it was Nuveen Green Capital secured that financing, and that was a milestone achievement because of all that building and that property did to incorporate renewable energy and sustainable sources. So,
thank you. Go ahead.
I have a message for the climate resilience field here today, and that is, we did not begin our resilience work just recently. We began it in the year 2000 when we signed the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. And that is our victory, and that is the time our victory began. So I urge you all to use the SERP, or the Everglades Restoration, as a guidance, as a playbook for how the arc of history can change despite political or economic or financial obstacles. And it is a learning, lessons to be learned, a playbook, and it is lessons that will inspire, and lessons that will help you fight through funding and getting the resilience projects on the ground. And like I said, restoration builds resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Anya.
Challenge that we're always addressing is printing taller and taller and taller walls. When we first started, we were printing 10-foot walls, and that's actually the reach of our robot is 10 feet. So for residential projects, that's great. But then we want commercial projects, and those were 12 feet. So we had to engineer a nozzle extension. We just won the Fountain Blue recently. That's going to be 14 and a half. We have to literally cut open our factory doors to slide the panels out. And just last week, we won a Navy contract for 17-foot living seawalls, which we'll have to install almost like highway walls by stacking them. And the key to being able to do this is, again, comes down to this culture of constant innovation, constant research and development, and really attracting people who are builders, who don't want to sit around, complain, endlessly talk about a problem, but want to get dirty, build something, and deliver solutions to the communities that need them today.
Yoka.
I think if for us, a challenge that we consistently find in the field is just treating climate adaptation and not treating and not considering how to embed climate mitigation opportunities. And I think for too long we have treated them in two different lanes. We're going to be focusing on the impacts and how do we become more resilient and be adaptive to what's happening, but we are not going to be really thinking about what's causing the problem, and so not really doing a interdisciplinary, integrated approach. I think it's a huge challenge because we cannot keep mopping the overflowing bathtub with taxpayers' dollars over and over again without closing the tap that keeps overflowing. And so to me, that I think is the biggest challenge we face in our eco space. And I know the progress is not linear, so we have taken several trails. We're really moving in the right direction. But I think the opportunities is exactly that. It's also treating adaptation and mitigation with equal intensity, embedding education and climate literacy at the core of all the programs we do, because they go hand in hand. And we can call it whatever. We can call it flooding, or we can call it, climate impacts. But I think there is a missing opportunity there that we must tackle.
Jessica.
Thank you. So I think a big challenge in my stormwater space is that designers think that they cannot design for stormwater within a place with a high water table. And hopefully from my presentation earlier, you guys saw that that is possible. So it's really, again, about education and getting those best management practices out there, getting the word out and helping people understand how to implement that, and that we can deal with stormwater, we can reduce flooding and mitigate flooding with stormwater, and also improve our water quality. And a huge kind of win and opportunity is the new stormwater rule. So I touched on both of these before, but it is huge in the field of stormwater, this new stormwater rule by the state, and really it's going to allow us to have cleaner waters.
Well, if we learn something today, is that solutions work best when we work together. I want to thank you all, and especially whoever put this summit together. Thank you all for being here. I have one message to end. And as the year is coming to an end, this conference is coming to an end, has been a challenging year, not only for the climate space, but for the world and for our country. I ask you to stay firm with your values. Administrations are gonna come and go, policies are gonna rise and fall, but our commitment to humanity have to stay there. I just wanna say that don't normalize cruelty. Don't normalize disrespect. Don't normalize name-calling. Stay true and firm with the mission that brought you here, because that is what's gonna make you lead, inspire, and create a lasting change together. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Round of applause to these amazing women. and go have lunch and enjoy the rest of the conference.